Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started immediately. Can everybody hear me? Is the microphone okay in the back? Everyone good? All right, excellent. I'm Chris Walker. I'm Mayor Koch's Chief of Staff. And I'm going to introduce the team we have with us tonight and walk through what we think will be a very beneficial program for the community that's going to be starting in a couple months. There may be some repetitiveness because I'm going to give a high level, just talk quickly on the history and where we are and where we're going, hit a couple key points, and then our partners from Good Energy, Rafita and Patrick, will walk through a brief presentation, 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up to questions that anyone may have. Does that sound like it's a very good turnout? That's true.
Yeah, I understand.
So back in 2018, so even further back than that, this is a state program done statutorily that allows communities to what's called aggregate their supply of electricity, meaning it allows cities and towns to competitively bid for the supply of electricity. Now, your National Grid bill is actually two things, and I didn't know this before this whole process started either. Your National Grid bill is two things. One is supply, which is what we're here talking about that. The other one is service and everything else. That never changes. National Grid is always going to be the company that you call for power outages. Your bill's not going to change. You're always going to get a bill from National Grid. So in 2018, the program went before the Quincy City Council. It was approved unanimously. There were public hearings at the time. Unfortunately, there was a line at the State Department of Public Utilities, the DPU, so you may hear that a little bit tonight, DPU. They have to approve the program going forward, and it took them a while. It took them almost 5 years because there was such a backlog because so many other communities were doing this. More than half of all the cities and towns in Massachusetts now do community aggregation. So from Mayor Koch's position, this was an opportunity to save money, although savings, we have to say this according to DPU, savings are not guaranteed. We are very confident that the rate that we're getting that locks in until the end of 2027 is going to save money, even at the standard level. So that being said, we do have to caveat that because the rates change from National Grid, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, that DPU wants us to be sure that we caveat all that and say we can't guarantee savings. All that being said, this is 100% voluntary, and we're going to walk through that process with the team from Good Energy in just a few minutes. Those are the key elements that I wanted to discuss briefly, and I want to introduce the team from Good Energy, and then we'll go through the presentation, and then we'll be here as long as folks want to. We'll do, just stand, raise your hand, we'll call on you. I'll repeat the question for folks to make sure, because we don't have a microphone in the audience. I'll repeat the question, and we'll go from there. For folks who may need language assistance, we have some folks from Quincy Asian Resources and the city's Planning and Community Development Department in the back to provide some language assistance if you need it. And with that, I will introduce Rafita from Good Energy to walk through the PowerPoint presentation.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Rafita Rahman, and I work as the Sustainability and Engagement Strategist for Good Energy, which is the city's consultant that's helping them manage this program. So I'll just get started with our presentation, which will last about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we're open for questions. Thank you. So let's discuss the purpose of this program. So the purpose of this program is for the city to offer their customers new electricity supply options that have competitive pricing, that have a longer-term price stability, and that offers more renewable energy. And although the savings cannot be guaranteed, as Chris mentioned earlier, these programs have historically had a great track record regarding providing savings compared to the utility basic services. So The electricity supplier that was chosen by the City of Quincy is Dynegy Energy Services, and they will be offering 3 supply options, which we will be looking into a while later. And this program starts from June 2024, and the prices are fixed for 42 months till December 2027. So what changes? As Chris mentioned earlier, that your National Grid bill actually has 2 parts. One is the supply portion and one is the delivery portion. So the delivery portion will stay the same. That will still be handled by National Grid. Only the supply portion is going to change. That from National Grid, it will be the Quincy Community Electricity. And yeah, that's something that you can see in your bill, which we will show you a little later as well. So, like I said, the National Grid will continue to deliver your electricity, maintain poles and wires, and respond to storm outages. So if you have any questions regarding those things, you can still consult National Grid. However, you will still only just get one bill. Just because Quincy Community Electricity will be handling the supply and the National Grid will be handling the delivery, that does not mean that you will get 2 separate bills. You will still only get 1 bill. And any benefits that you already get from National Grid, whether it's budget billing, receiving low-income discounts, net metering, or solar benefits, none of that changes. That all stays in place, and that, I mean, enrolling in this program will not change any of that. So these are our program options. So there's 3. So the default is known as the Quincy Standard, which adds 10% voluntary renewable energy. And there are 2 other optional products, which is the Quincy Basic, which adds no renewable energy, and the Quincy Premium that adds voluntary renewable energy to total 100% over the state renewable energy as well. And a lot of you may ask that why is the Quincy Standard made a default? So this is mostly because the city wanted to offer their customers a win-win product. That's something that not just environmentally beneficial, but also economically. So because it adds 10% voluntary renewable energy over the state standards, so that makes it environmentally beneficial. And because it's also, like you can see, about 4 cents cheaper than the utility basic services, it's also economically more feasible. Now, if customers want to be even more environmentally impactful, then they can opt up to our 100% product, which is the Quincy Premium. But if anybody wants the absolute lowest cost product, they can also opt down to the Quincy Basic. Now, like I mentioned, that our Quincy Basic and Quincy Standard and Quincy Premium both add voluntary renewable energy. So a lot of you may wonder that where do we get that renewable energy? So most of the voluntary renewable energy that the city will be getting from would be sourcing from Class 1 sources, which is another term for regional renewable energy. So we tend to source these energy from a nonprofit called Green Energy Consumers Alliance, which is a nonprofit based in Massachusetts. And the sources are from wind, solar, low impact, hydro, and anaerobic digestion all over New England. And these Class 1 RECs, or also known as renewable energy certificates, are also preferred by the Department of Energy Resources of Massachusetts because it also supports the growth of additional renewables. So let's talk about participation and enrollment. Participation is absolutely voluntary. There's never any penalty or fee to opt out of the program. You can join anytime you want, and you can also leave anytime you want. And the enrollment process, however, differs based on your current electricity supplier. Like if your current electricity supplier is National Grid, you will be automatically enrolled in the program. However, if you have a third-party supplier, then you have to voluntarily enroll into the program. You have to do it yourself. You're not going to be automatically enrolled. So this is a bill in case you want to see how to find your current supplier. So this is a sample National Grid bill. As you can see, you have to see in this section, and you will see that the supply services, you will see your if you see National Grid, then National Grid is your supplier. And you can also see that it'll be written basic service, fixed basic service, and it'll be on the second page of your bill. So that's how you can spot your current supplier.
Is there any chance you can enlarge that, please?
This is for now the largest, but maybe we can come back to that. Okay, thank you. Like I said, that anyone using National Grid Basic Service is eligible to automatically be enrolled in the Quincy Standard as of their June meter read. So as I said, Quincy Standard is the default program, and customers received a notification letter in mid-April explaining these options. So for Quincy, I think there was 2 dates. So cycle 1 customers probably received those letters by April 15th, and the rest of the cycles, I think, received those letters by April 20th. And if an eligible customer takes no action, they will be enrolled in Quincy Standard starting in June. And there's also some deadlines to opt out of the program. So if anyone who's eligible for automatic enrollment, Cycle 1 customers actually have a deadline of May 15th to opt out before the program starts. And all the rest of the customers in the other cycles, the deadline to opt out before the program starts is May 20th. So it's best to actually make a decision before that whether or not you want to be in the program or not. And you may opt out at any time after May 20th also, and you will be returned to National Grid Basic Service on your next meter read. And there is never any penalty to opt out of the program, like I said earlier. Cycle 1 is, I think, the customers that, so there are many cycles of customers, and I think it covers like about 1/3 of the city. So yeah, it's just.
How do you tell? I mean, I just got my letter the other day, so it's asking I'm cycle 2, I don't know.
Thanks. Hi, Patrick with Good Energy. Their cycle number is on your bill. I think it's on the first page on the left. There's sort of a blue column, and it has your account number in there, and it has a little thing that says cycle. And so if it says like cycle 1, you're one of those early customers. How about page 2? Is it on the blue column on page 2?
Yes,
The-
on page 2.
Great, okay. So blue column on the left of page 2, it'll say something about cycle.
But it says cycle 10.
Yeah, so if it says cycle 1, you're probably on that's that May 15th. If it says anything else, you're on the May 20th. But what I would do is, we've still got a couple weeks until either of those dates. So I think what we're just trying to do is I would try to make your decision, sometime around the 15th, I think. But as Rafita said, if you miss any of these deadlines, there's no problem. You'll just be opted out of the program the next month. And I think what we're going to do is we'll go back to the presentation, and we've got a few more slides, and then we'll dive all in.
So if you want to opt out of the program, all you have to do is return the postage paid card in your notification letter, or you can fill out the online form. If you go to the quincycea.com website, there is a opt-out form, and you can fill that, and you will be out of the program. Or you can call the supplier, Dynegy, at 866-220-2596. And if you want to choose a different Quincy option, then you can also fill out the online form from the program website. There is the form that says enroll, or again, you can call the supplier, Dynegy, at the number given. So as I mentioned earlier, that customers using their own supplier, that if anybody has a third-party supplier, they will not be receiving the notification letter, and they will not be automatically enrolled. These customers, however, if they want to see how their program works out for them, they can voluntarily join, and they could check their current supplier in case they have any termination fees, or any penalties. So it's always good to make sure of that. So earlier I showed you a sample bill to check your suppliers and any other information that you might want to see. However, this is a bill that that you can see after you're enrolled. So earlier I said that here in the supplier portion, it used to be National Grid, but after you get enrolled in the program, it will say Quincy Community Electricity Dynegy, because that's the supplier. And here, the price will be a little different. So it will depend on which product you're enrolled in. If you are enrolled in the standard product, you will get a different pricing. If you are enrolled in basic or premium, it all depends on which product you're enrolled in. So that's the price that you will be seeing. So we also did some pre-launch awareness, and in addition to the notification letters. So we actually spread the word through a press release, which I think a lot of you may have seen in the Quincy Sun. And a lot of the information was also posted in the Quincy Municipal website. We also did a notice running through the Quincy Access Television, also known as QATV. There was also brochures in the mayor's office, the city hall, etc. And a postcard was also sent to all eligible customers. So that's that. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can call the, what? Oh yeah.
I'm not going to subject you to questions right off the top. Thank you for putting this slide. Before we get to the questions, really great job. Rafita, appreciate it. Because no one can see this slide, I understand that. We'll post it again. It's been on the city's website. We'll post it again. But just so you know what the actual rates are, for those that can't see in the back, the standard, that's the default program, is going to be 13.8 cents per kilowatt hour. The Quincy Basic is about 13.4 cents per kilowatt hour. The Quincy Premium, that's the all renewable energy, is 14.7 cents. So compare those three with the National Grid rate, which is good until the end of July. The National Grid rate that we're all paying right now is 18.2 cents. So for at least, I think I can say this, for at least the first 2 or 3 months of the program, we are guaranteeing savings, because National Grid doesn't change their rates until we're already in, and their rate is almost 5 cents higher now than it is. So at least to start, we're going to be ahead of the game, and we think we're going to be able to stay ahead of the game in the long term. So with that, now we can open up the questions. You sure can. And I'm going to repeat the questions so everybody in the back of there. Patrick, you want to take that? But my knowledge is that they're one of the biggest energy suppliers in the country. We had, was it 3 or 4 bids from major suppliers because of the market that we brought to the table. We're obviously one of the largest cities in Massachusetts. It's about 55,000 customers. So when a company of that scale sees something like that, they see an opportunity, and that's where this whole concept really comes from, because now we're being competitive. We're not just relying on the standard, the National Grid, although National Grid does a great job in a lot of other ways. But why not, as a community, would we not go out, solicit our own bids, and get the best price possible? And that's what we did. Yes. Well, my stock price is always falling. The question, by the way, was how reputable is the actual supplier, Dynergy? And that's when I get into, we got three or four competitive bids from some of the largest energy firms in the country, because they saw the market capability of what we had to offer in Quincy. I don't know, Patrick?
Yeah, that's all accurate. And I just wanted to add on to that a couple things. So Dynegy has been serving other cities and towns in Massachusetts for a number of years. So some other cities, city of Waltham, they're currently serving, city of Salem, city of Marlborough. They have a few dozen. And then also one of our roles as the consultant to the city is to do quality assurance on the supplier to make sure that they are providing the customer support and service that they are required to in the contract. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Where do they get their energy from?
Hold on one second, just before we continue with the questions. I do want to acknowledge with us tonight, we have Ward 2 City Councilor Richard Ash, Ward 4 Councilor Jim Devine is with us also tonight. Neither of them were on the council when they voted for it, so you cannot blame them. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Where do they get their energy from?
I'm going to leave that one to you guys. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and thank you for reminding me. I said I was going to do it, and then I didn't do it. The question was, where does the supplier get their energy from?
So all of the energy has to come from sources that are on our New England electricity grid, or we can import some power from Eastern Canada and New York State. But effectively, it's not coming from Texas or something like that. So it's all within our region.
Right here in the front.
My question is, why didn't you reach out to those of us who are using third-party suppliers?
I'm handing that one right over to you guys.
That's fine. Oh, the question.
How about every time a question is asked, you just yell at me to repeat the question? I think that's probably going to work. The question is, why were those folks who were already enrolled in the third-party vendor, why were they not invited to participate in this program? So the answer is?
So the answer is the city gets the data, the mailing data, to reach out to customers from the utility. And the utility gives the city what the state law requires, which is only the mailing information for the people who are on National Grid basic service, only the people who will be automatically enrolled. So city just doesn't have that data. It's something that might change in the future, but that's why. So we're basically trying to do with press releases and all these other ways, trying to get the word out.
Great. Let's shoot for anybody in the back. I know we've been back right. Yes, you, sir. Blue shirt.
A couple of questions. EV benefits. So National Grid has EV Hub. They talk about installation aid and off-peak charging. I've actually asked the email, they gave me no answer. Enbridge gave me no answer. So I'm hoping you guys have an answer. So help on installation charge, off-peak charger, and also off-peak charging. So if I'm using a different supplier now, would I still have those? Because I think you guys talked about solar and all of that. And one last question. And will the rates come down? Everything goes up, but could it come down? So I think there was a reference to say it could go up.
Sure. Well, all right. So I'm going to take the first part of that question first, and the question was, the second part of the question first. The question was, can the rate ever go up or go down? No. Our rate, the rate that we have, is locked in. That's our contract. That's the caveat, that we are locked in at a rate that we believe is going to be very competitive over the course of that. But yes, the rate can go down, and if you're looking, the National Grid's rate can go down. They set it every 6 months. So National Grid's rate goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. If the market changes dramatically and you're looking at it and you notice that National Grid, although we don't think it's going to happen, is substantially lower than what you're paying through Quincy Community Energy, you just opt out, if that's your call. Now, the first part of that question was about electric vehicle charging, and I'm definitely handing that over to Rafita.
So I'm sorry about that. We did actually address this question to National Grid because we also got this question from another customer. And the good news is that that there is actually, like, if you are enrolled through our through our program and you have the EV off-peak benefits going on, that is not going to change. That's still going to remain. And
So I called N-Grid because Alex had answered my question with another answer, with another question. So they said the N-Grid will charge the rate of the supplier. We didn't say N-Grid will further provide discount. So that's why I'm asking the question again.
Yeah, and this may be one or two we want to follow up a little bit more afterwards, but what we understand is National Grid's, I think it's their Charge Smart MA program, that has the peak and off-peak benefits, that continues, that continues unaffected, so that your bill would still show the same things in the delivery section. In the supply section, it would show this price, but then whatever benefits they're calculating for you should remain the same. But it might be something good for us to talk about a little bit more in depth, just to make sure but because we have talked about that program with National Grid, and the answers they're giving us is that your choice of supplier does not impact your EV charging benefits through that program.
And that raises another good point. If there are questions we can't answer tonight, available via email, phone call our office. Their numbers are available on the website. There may be some folks who need some individual attention, have a very specific issue that we're just not going to have the answer to tonight, but this is a process. We've got a few weeks to get through it and beyond that, so we're going to be good.
How did you decide?
Yes, sir.
How did we decide that we would, the option would be we're in unless you say no, versus the option,
Correct, that's,
which is a more normal. You could have said, I mean, I hate to be hyperbolic, but you could have said, we're going to enroll you in the Ku Klux Klan unless you say no.
understood. So the question was, and this is a good question, and this was, something we knew was going to come up. Why is it opt out? Why didn't you ask us if you wanted to opt in? The answer is, we don't have the market power to get the rates that we got if we just said, we're going to ask everybody to do this. Because the amount of time, the amount of people that, look, there's a good number of people here. And we've gotten a good number of phone calls since everyone got that letter. We've gotten a good number of emails. But there were 55,000 of those letters that went out. Most people are just it's not that big of a change. They're still going to get a National Grid bill. They're hopefully going to notice that their rate went down a little bit, but it's not that big of a change but they also, those same people, we would never get them to opt in either. So to create the market for this, and then when you add in the additional green energy, that was another option, because we've been lobbied pretty aggressively to offer more renewable energy for those who want it, customers, and this was an opportunity to do that.
You will get a lot of people who threw the letter away. And they're
Understood. So we will get a lot of people that the question was, we will get a lot of people that throw the letter away. Yes. We agree. They can still opt out at any time when they discover, after the first billing cycle, the second billing cycle, after they've been paying a lower rate, that they want to get out. They can still get out anytime they want. Yes, sir.
Do these rates here include delivery charges?
Do these rates here include delivery charges? No, because that's the second piece of the bill. So the second,
Indicating that there's like a 5 cent
kilowatt difference there, but there really isn't.
No, these are apples to apples. This is, so your National Grid bill is already in two parts. So this is supply to supply, and I'm being pointed at, so I'm going to hand it right over.
So, like I mentioned before, that your National Grid bill is in two parts. One is the supply portion, and one is the delivery portion. So the prices that you see here are just for the supply. So the 4 or 5 cent difference that you see is just for the supply portion, but your delivery prices are still going to be the same. The one that you're paying for National Grid, it's still going to be the same.
Okay, quick follow-up. I know the city.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why we had this presentation today. Yes.
I have two questions. The first question is, I do go online and enroll. My first question is that, can I check it, what program that I enroll in? And also, do I get confirmation when I get the program chosen? And the second question is that on the pamphlet, on the website, and also on the printed paper, that you guys have the price that have listed with like residential, small business, and large business. And then next to it, on the right, it says, okay, this is the rate. Are you saying that everyone is paying the same rate, regardless whether they're residential or business?
Okay, so this gentleman has two questions. One is that if he enrolled in the program, can he see which program he's enrolling to, and will he get a confirmation email? Yes, he will. We have that in our system to make sure of that. And the second question he asked was, is residential and commercial, are they all paying the same prices? Yes, they are.
You haven't put your hand down, so. No, I'm sorry, sir. Right behind you. That's my fault. Go ahead, young lady. Yes.
Net metering, that is the earlier net metering. You do not have two parts to your bill when the bill goes negative. You have a combined rate that includes both distribution and supply.
Okay. So that question relates to those folks who have net metering, and I'm handling that over to Patrick.
Yep. Yeah, sure. So the question was about net metering, and what I just want to be really clear about is the way that National Grid calculates the value of the solar that you put onto the grid. That won't change. The way the state designed that program, it's independent of who your electricity supplier is and what that rate is. So the way credits accrue on your bill, and the way that if you have an existing balance today, that balance won't change. That will still be there. And then the way any credits accrue will still continue. The only thing that would change with solar is for those times that you do pull power off of the grid, then this supply price would take effect.
So, but there's two different kinds of net metering out there. There's people that are early adopters, where they get credit for the supply and the distribution. And there are some people that get credit for just the supply. So right now, on my bill, for example, when it is negative, I see one thing that just has a rate that is a combined rate. So when you say it can't change, but some of that rate is coming from you, then it has to look different, doesn't it? Because you have to give me credit for the fact that I've supplied.
Yeah, it's a good question, and there are different flavors of net metering out there, but the way that the credit is calculated uses the basic service price, whether or not you're on basic service or not. And this might be good for us to follow up, just to look at the bill together, but effectively, at the end of the day, just the formula, the calculation that the utility is using to adjust the bill for your production is just independent of the program.
Is it your rate when it's gone negative, or is it National Grid's basic rate?
The question is, if it goes negative, what rate is it? Right, so whenever you're going negative or you're putting more power onto the grid, that value is going to be calculated based upon National Grid's prices and not this program's prices. And we'd be happy to follow up more on that.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Hi.
I'm sorry, I was a few minutes late. I was having a question inside at 6:30. So this might be a easy question.
Sure.
So do we get two bills now?
No, the question is two bills or one bill? One bill, nothing changes except the box that says where the supply. Now, and I mentioned earlier, and a lot of people the same thing, I was in the same place, didn't quite get that National Grid, your bill is actually two pieces. One is supply, which is what we're changing. The other is delivery, which National Grid will always handle.
So the delivery, so they have a charge of National Grid is $7 per month customer fee. It's not a delivery fee, it's just a customer fee. Will we still be paying that?
Yes.
Part of their delivery fee aggregate. If you look down, that's like 6 or 7 line items that make up their delivery section. But you've got to flip the bill over to the second page to see the supply side.
And that's when you see
Gotcha.
And the last thing is,
3.
If someone asked about why we did it, I thought it was kind of weird that you guys had to opt out. It is a state statute that when cities and towns decide to go with a group thing, they're allowed to do this under state law. I wasn't happy about it, but that's the state statute, so city Quincy isn't doing something that they can't do.
For once. We'll go across right there.
If you're the supplier, and how many brownouts and things like that do you have, and who takes care of that and who goes out?
The question is, from the supply perspective, what effect does that have on things like brownouts, power outages, anything? Is any of that connected to the supply piece, and how does that work?
So, like I said, that this program is only taking care of the supply portion. So, I think what you said was about power outages. That's still based on the delivery portion of the thing, and that National Grid is still going to take care of that. So, yeah.
And I'll just add to that too. If for some reason Dynegy went out of business overnight, right, the supplier, everyone would just revert to National Grid basic service. So just to build on what Rafita said, yeah, from a reliability standpoint, no change. And we know there are people who've called us, they said, you know, at home I've got an oxygen thing, or I've got, like, electricity is important to me, reliability wise. So this will not have an impact on reliability of the electricity to your house.
Great, thank you. This gentleman's been waiting quite some time, right? Yep. 4? All right, who wants 5?
The first one is, who sends out the bills?
Okay. Let's take one. We'll take them one at a time, because that's an easy one. The question was, who sends out the bills? National Grid. Your bill's you're not gonna notice a difference when you get your bill.
Second one, who sets the delivery rates?
Question 2, and I got this one too. It's 2 in a row. Question 2 is, who sets the delivery rates? The city made itself available for competitive bids on these rates. That bid happened about supply. I'm sorry. Oh, delivery. You asked. Okay, so I did screw that up. Who sets the delivery rate? That's National Grid. Question 3.
Who reads the meter?
National Grid. The question was, who reads the meter? National Grid will continue to read the meter.
And what, on our bill, it says cycle 1-2. What's that mean?
On your bill, it says cycle 1-2, and I don't know.
So cycle 1-2 is basically, I think it's cycle 12, and lady actually asked this question before that, what does it mean? So so there are many cycles. I think there's cycle 1 to 12. So if you're cycle 1, I think they get like, I think the letter was probably sent on April 15th. And if you're cycle 12, I think the letter was sent on April 20th. And that just basically differences, you guys have different meter reads, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and so what that means is National Grid gets around to your house to read your meter on their 12th cycle, which tends to be mid-month, whereas if you're cycle 1, they get around to it on like the first of the month, basically.
Okay, before we continue, does anybody want us to turn on the lights, or are we comfortable? Comfortable, say yay. Lights? Okay, no lights. Yes, ma'am.
Question. Nowadays, we're very worried about cost and inflation. What's the advantage? Why would we go with the premium at 14.7 versus the 13?
That's a great question. The question was, in this age we're living in with inflation and cost increases in a number of ways, why would someone choose the premium package, which is 100% renewable energy? That is because, and again, this is your option, some people believe very deeply in the need for us to use renewable energy, and they're willing, on their own, they're not making us do it, they're not making you do it, on their own, to pay a little bit more to have their electricity come from 100% renewable sources and 100% renewable sources from around New England. So it's all local renewable energy. And to some people, that's very important.
So that's not as important to us. We should go price.
So the follow-up question was, if that piece of it's not important to you, then we should go to the price-driven options. That is 100% correct. And that is the why it's been set up like this. That's exactly why. The mayor, working with the team, decided let's go for a middle ground to start. With the caveat being he wanted a lower rate regardless. He wanted to get us to a place that we were going to have a lower rate and hopefully save as much money as possible, but go above what is legally required for green energy. And this 10% additional green energy does both of those things as we get started. But if you don't care at all about green energy, there's a plan for you to opt into an even cheaper rate. Now, the difference between those two, our plan and the basic plan, isn't all that much.
But the basic to the standard, I guess if you're not worried about renewable energy and you do it with other things you can do.
That's right. That's why we've presented it in a way that gives everyone the option. Yeah, absolutely. Correct. Yes, sir. In the way back, you've been patient.
Massive rebates, massive rebates.
Will we still be eligible for mass save rebates?
Yes, any benefits that you get from National Grid, whether it's mass save benefits, low-income discounts, off-peak, EV off-peak discounts, anything, that's not going to change if you enroll in this program.
How soon can customers opt in or opt out for the Quincy Basic or Quincy Premium?
So so he's asking. So the first question he asked was, will enrolling into this program hamper his mass save benefits? It wouldn't. And his second question was, how soon can he opt in or opt out of the program? So like I said before, if you are part of the Cycle 1 customers, you can opt out by May 15th. And if you are part of any rest of the cycles, then you can opt out by May 20th. And you can enroll in, I think, as soon as possible, but you can also opt out after May 20th, but that's going to be, then you will be switched back to the National Grid basic service, but in the next meter read. So, yeah.
What is the, like opting out process? So I know that, I understand that it's working on wrong. Once I opt in, I can opt out anytime, right, without any penalty.
Yeah.
But what happens if say, well, maybe a month later or 2 months later, say, I want to opt in again. So if you allow this process, right, so there's a lot of people opting in enough, not enough time. So what are the limits that allow one person with a contract to opt in and out?
The question is, and I'm going to hand this to Patrick, that can you opt in or not opt in, just you're enrolled, opt out, then opt back in, then opt back out again, then opt back in again. Okay.
Yes, the answer is yes, you can do that if you want to be really active. And just so you have a sense, for a city the size of Quincy, right, there are new people moving in every month, there's people moving out, so there's a lot of turnover anyway, so the supplier is expecting that there's going to be movement. They're going to be bringing new people in, they're going to be closing old accounts. The one thing I will just say, because the focus on this program is transparency, if you opt out, what you'll see on the form, it'll remind you, and I think on the confirmation email, is that you're welcome to come back in, but the supplier technically has the option, when you come back in, to offer you a different price. So, yes, so they have the option. Now, what I want to say two things about that. So one is the reason they have that option is actually to keep the price lower for everybody who's in the program. And really, in practice, because we work with a number of cities and towns on this, suppliers don't use that. They don't take advantage of that for residential customers. They take advantage of it when a large business customer comes out of the woodwork and says, I want to jump onto this program, a huge customer. So yeah, if you're a residential customer, come in, come out to your heart's content.
In the way back, you're going to need rotator cuff. Your hand's been up for so long.
Thank you so much. First, I want to say thank you for doing this. I do support it and I'm excited about it. The question I had was it seems like National Grid would be incentivized to increase our delivery costs because we are now paying a lower supply cost. So is there any contract language or anything that protects us from them all of a sudden just boosting Quincy's distribution?
So the question is, can National Grid be upset and then whack us with, and it's a really good question, they say, all right, Quincy, you're not taking our supply, we're gonna jack up your delivery rate just to punish you. My guess is that there are some severe regulatory issues with that, and that is a guess. That's why I'm gonna look back over here to see if Patrick and Ken.
Yes, confirming Chris's guess is correct. So when the state decided that we would just have the utility have a monopoly on delivering the power and we would have a competitive market for the supply, part of that process was setting rules that the utility they can't discriminate on how they provide you their delivery services, how they respond to storm outages based on who your supplier is. And in fact, also National Grid does not make any profit off of their supply portion. That is just a pass-through cost for them. So when Quincy leaves their supply, it doesn't impact their bottom line, and the State Department of Public Utilities, who oversees them, they make sure that they adhere to the same service standards, and it's the same delivery price no matter who the supplier is.
That actually came up early on in the discussion, because that was one of the first questions the mayor had, is National Grid going to care? Because they are our partners in a lot of ways. They do a ton of work. They respond to emergencies. Say good things, bad things about the utility provider. They're our utility provider, and we need them. And if there was going to be potentially an issue, it would have added to the conversation a little bit. And I don't know that we would have gone down this direction if there was something like that was possible. Yes, Helen.
Two questions. The first is, are there any state or federal benefits to the city if we have more people participate in the premium, offering the more renewable choices?
Okay, first question is, do we get any state or federal benefits if more people take the 100% renewable option? We don't know. Okay.
Yeah, the answer is no. I guess no state, no federal benefit. A global benefit environmentally, but no, that's it.
Second part of the question, is there, and I may have missed this earlier, is there a minimum participation required for us to be in and stay in this aggregate purchasing?
The question is there a minimum participation rate? Oh, okay, so the number of people. So if everyone decides they want to opt out, does the company come back and say this is no good? No. We're in, we have a contract. That's a calculated risk, I guess, that the supplier takes, that they feel that they've got a competitive rate and not everyone's going to opt out. Yes, ma'am.
It said in the letter something about a contract in December of 2027. Does that mean that this rate is set through 2027?
The question was, the letter said something about contract through December of 2027. Does that mean that this is our rate through December of 2027? Yes, this is the rate. We are locked in at this rate. And again, we view that as a very good piece of this whole program, that based upon the fluctuations that happen in the market. We've all seen it. Rates go up, rates go down. Mostly they go up. That we're locked in at this very competitive rate, that we're going to be in very good shape. Yes, in front.
What benefit is the city of Quincy getting from this?
What benefit? The question is, what benefit is the city of Quincy getting from this? None, other than providing what we believe is a better option for our residents. There's no credits or anything like that. We don't get anything. Let's see. In the way back.
Thank you. Is there anything different if you're a renter versus a property?
No. No, the question is it different if you're a renter or a property owner? No. If you get a bill from National Grid, currently, if you're a renter and you pay your electric, you are involved in the program, you're enrolled. If you're a renter and you don't, then that's your landlord. But everyone who gets a National Grid bill is enrolled in this program unless they opt out.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm a nurse, and you indicated that there were 55,000 letters postcards that went out. And I wanted to compliment you on the number of different languages that the information went out, number one. Number two, how many citizens are there in Quincy?
The question is, the first one was a compliment. The second piece of that was, how many citizens are there in the city of Quincy? The last census, we finally passed, after years of knowing we were past 100,000. We were at 103,000 people, according to the federal census. The federal census is not an exact science. It's pretty close to an exact science. It's about as close as you can get. But we're probably a little bit higher than that in reality, but in that range. So 103,000 people.
My follow-up is, given global concerns and the equity issue, why not, with all the political flyers we get and little postcards we get, why is there not a computer system that can interface to tell you who the other 50-some-odd thousand people are, that are third-party supplier people, so that your aggregate would be better, which would technically allow you to potentially negotiate a better price?
Okay, I'm going to take a stab at this. So the question is, so there are 100,000 people in Quincy. There are 55,000 electric customers. I think that more relates to, you've got 3 people in a household, you've got 4 people in a household, you've got people that we count as part of our population in a household, but head of household, that's an old term. There's 55,000 customers, and that could be, you and your family is one customer. Well, that could be 12 people. So that's where that's the difference between 100,000 people and 55,000 customers.
55,000 were actually, what you're saying, they were like head of household people that pay electric?
The 55,000 is how many bills National Grid sends out, how many electric customers we have. And that includes, that's residential, that's also commercial. So every business that gets an electric bill, that's in that 55,000 range too. Yes, one more question up front. See, if you sit up front, you have these advantages.
Now I deal with National Grid.
Yes.
Going forward, I will be dealing with 2 entities. Correct? How do they make their money? National Grid makes money, this new entity makes money.
Correct.
How do I save money on this deal? People got their hand in it.
So I'm going to take a stab at this one too. So the question is, there are now 2 entities involved, one supplying and one delivering, whereas before it was both, and now we have 2. It was one doing both. Now we have one company that wants to make money doing the supply, another company that wants to make money doing the delivery. So how are we going to save money? My answer to that is, National Grid doesn't make any money off supply. They have to have a supply. And National Grid, very likely, goes through the same process that we just went through. They bid the supply, and they get what they believe is going to be the best rate for them. And they make their money off of them being the actual utility that provides the delivery and the service. The supply, there's always going to be people bidding for electric supply. We just did it on our own without having National Grid do it for us. Did I hit that?
Yeah, I think Chris really nailed that. I would just add to it. Yeah, the National Grid has third-party private companies bidding on their supply for basic service. So, right, they have a little profit somewhere built into that. Same with the supplier who bid on this. So it's basically the same there.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So you got the list from National Grid, correct?
Correct.
So it said my husband's name on it, and he expired.
Okay.
So I had changed it last month to my name, but my name's not on the paper that I got in there.
Yeah, my guess, the question is that the bill came to a household where the spouse had recently passed away, and you changed it, but you still got the letter with your late husband on there. That's probably a timing issue, that we probably took the list at a time, plucked the list at an earlier time, and that will all change your bill once you're enrolled or not enrolled. That if you're getting your bill the way it should be, then you're going to be fine. You don't have to do anything. Yes, ma'am.
National Grid is here for the energy, which is provided. So how come like we have to wait 12 months, 12 months if we ever wait what's up and down during the year? But sometimes we get to do it and say, oh, that's great, and then the government says, stop. How do you keep the same rate?
Sure. So the question is, we have locked in a rate for that time period, whereas National Grid is negotiating or bidding, or however they do their process, is doing it in 6-month intervals. And why is it, better, or what's the difference when National Grid, it may go up, it may go down, it may go up, it may go down. And Patrick, maybe you can give a little insight into the utilities process when it comes to why they do it the way that they do it, and why. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a good question. We do get that often. People say, well, National Grid is huge. How could you get a better price than they do? So effectively, they follow a procurement schedule that is mandated by the Department of Public Utilities, and it's just a regular schedule. They buy the same amount of power. They actually buy twice a year. They buy half the power they need twice a year. And so what that means is if the market is in a really bad spot, they can't avoid that. They buy in the bad market. If it's in a great spot, they also can't buy more and go long. So that's why their price basically reflects where the market is at. But whereas the city had the option to choose when to go to bid and how long to go to bid for. So that's...
They can't lock it in because of regulations?
Right, the question was, so National Grid can't lock in because of regulations? Right, yep, the way the state has, effectively the state says, National Grid provides supply basically as a last resort, right? They want the competitive market to flourish, and so they want National Grid to just have a predictable procurement schedule that we all know how it works, and basically that results in this. It changes every 6 months, and sometimes it goes way up like we saw, over the last couple of years.
Yes, ma'am, on the window.
I think it's going to be a quick one. So, many people have the approximate fixed rate guesstimate year-round, so they don't pay up and down, up and down, up and down. I'm assuming that's going to stay the same because it's through National Grid. The continuous.
Yeah, so the question is, people have an option with National Grid now to, I think it's called balance bill pay, that you can pay pretty much a set rate throughout the course of the year, so you don't have these seasonal spikes. Rafid.
Yeah, so budget, like if you are enrolled in any form of like budget billing and stuff, that's not gonna change if you enroll in this program as well. It kind of adds to like low income discounts or mass save benefits, or solar benefits, any of these benefits that you're currently kind of receiving from National Grid, none of that is gonna change if you enroll into the Quincy Community Electricity Program. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think with that balance billing or budget billing, they recalculate your price maybe once a year. So yeah, they will still do that recalculation, and they'll probably take this program into account, but yeah, you'll still get balance billing.
Yes, ma'am.
So by the time 2027 gets here and this program seems to be waiting, we're able to get will you be able to renegotiate then, like every 3 years?
Yeah. So the question is, what happens in 2027 where our current contract expires? We can rebid, and if the program has proven to be successful over the course of that 3 years, I think that would be the expectation and probably the going thought. We can, like everyone can right now, the city can just say we're not going to do this anymore for whatever reason, and we can just opt out and not do it again. Yes, sir.
My question relates to a couple questions. That's kind of related. So I actually did, try to do some research on this, and so I was kind of surprised that I didn't find a whole lot of reviews considering the size of the company. And the reviews that I did find, none of them were favorable. And the common theme throughout it was customer service, people making phone calls and not being able to get through. So if we're having power outages and stuff, and we're making phone calls to the National Grid, if I heard it correctly, so why would we be calling them directly? And if so, and this is where if we wanted to opt out, anybody who's ever did any sort of subscription kind of thing, find that it's an absolute pain in the ass to try to opt out. And so if I did decide to opt out, am I going to be able to go to a website or something and put it in there, or am I going to get the runaround like I would trying to get out of it?
No, through you. So the second question was, generally speaking, when you try to unsubscribe to something that you don't want to subscribe to, and we've all been through it, they make it as difficult as possible. The difference here is, the answer to the question is no, that's not going to happen, because we don't really care. Like, in the end, we think, this is through the city, we think we're providing you a better option. If you don't want that option, and it's all regulatory as well, then the opt-out process is super simple. So, because we're not going to try to keep you on the phone to keep you in our program, because we've got the same rate. We're not the cable company.
Somebody explain that process?
Sure. So the opt-out process, as we went through, is pretty simple. You can go to .com and just fill out the form. And it should also be on the letter that you have, or you may not have received yet, or you have received, and you're out. Yep.
The scenario I'm portraying here isn't just immediate thing. The question is 3 or 4 months from now, because like I said, all the reviews that I've seen, none of them are positive, and the sample size wasn't great, to be fair.
Sure.
But, like I said, the concern is what happens in the initial stage of this. It's down the road, 4 or 5 months down the road, and people have these problems. So why are these people calling and giving such low reviews? Why would we be calling a company other than to maybe opt out if we did want to opt out 5 months from now, not during this initial thing?
Yep.
That's the process I'm really more interested in.
Understood. On the question relative to the company's reliability and the unfavorable reviews, my sense is, and I don't know other parts of the country, if Dynegy has very different components that they do in different parts of the country, if they're perhaps they're a utility supplier in some of the other parts, whereas they're a commodity broker. There's not going to be a hell of a lot of customer service from our end. The customer service is always going to be with National Broker. The company that we're, National Grid, the company that we bid competitively to get the electricity from, they're basically they're a broker, or they're an energy supplier. And they supply, but that doesn't change the why, like brownouts, power outages, anything related to what you and I see every day related to electricity is still National Grid. I know that it can be confusing, but that's the way it is, because these guys are just the supplier. And I think do we get the second part of your question?
Well, I mean, I sort of get for the outages and the thing we're most concerned about, we're going to do it on the local level. But I was just kind of curious.
Understood.
If somebody could explain to me why would they have all these issues? And the big concern would be, I think we're all in kind of agreement on here, is the plan fit the situation where somebody does decide they want to change 5 months from now, that process of, am I going to be able to go to the website?
Sure. So the question, the immediate question is, 5 months from now, after we've gone through this process, and you think you're going to stick with it, but 5 months from now, you want to opt out, is it going to be as simple to opt out as it is today? And the answer is yes. This website's not going anywhere. That'll be up on the city's website perpetually. So the answer should be, and it is, especially if you're dealing with it from the city's end, that yes. Because again, we don't have a vested interest in whether we think you should stay, but if you stay or go, it's no skin off our back. So we're not going to sit there and try to talk you into it. And I think Patrick wanted to elaborate. The second piece of that question was customer service nationally from the company that bid successfully for our supply.
Yeah, to address that customer service piece, I think what's important, and some of you may have seen, the Boston Globe had an article maybe a week or so ago. It was about the Attorney General's report about how some of these third-party suppliers are very unscrupulous. They get people into really bad deals, and that is definitely true. And so what's really important and different about these programs, right, is that the city was between the supplier and the end user negotiating a contract with strict contract terms and conditions, including for customer support, which when you're out there in the market individually, you don't have that negotiating power. And then additionally, we, as the city's consultant, it's our job to do quality assurance on the supplier to make sure that they are providing the best quality or the best customer support for Quincy residents, so that if you request to opt out or request to change, that's being honored immediately. And if you're having any bad customer support experiences, we're on the phone with them to get that corrected, get people retrained, all that stuff.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, sir, in the back row.
Is there any data available? You mentioned earlier that communities in Massachusetts have been participating in these programs for the last 5 years. And is there any data available that would show the history of how pricing is going at contract renewal?
Sure. We may not have that with us tonight, but we can absolutely provide that. Well, we do have that tonight. So the question was, do we have any trending data that shows what historically these programs have looked like? Is the savings real? That sort of thing, and we do have some data. So everyone hang tight. We're going to have to probably walk through this because charts and graphs you're not going to be able to see. Okay.
All right, so I know it's a little hard to see, so I'll show this. This is City of Gloucester. They're also with National Grid. They've had a program since 2018, and I'm so sorry, it's hard to read back here. But effectively, the green line is the city's program. They have had almost the same rate for the entire 5 years that they've been active. So they've had 2 different contracts. Both were, about 2 to 3 years, kind of like the city's contract. Meanwhile, the National Grid rate here is in blue, and you've seen it. Pre-pandemic, it was kind of going up a little bit, down a little bit, up a little bit. And then, as you may know, over the last couple years, with the Russian invasion, the pandemic, things got really crazy for a while, and you see the price go up. But Gloucester's a good example of a community where, you can see not every moment in time was the program the cheapest thing. So there's a couple 6-month periods where the program was a little bit or the utility was a little bit cheaper than the program, and that may happen. But on balance, over the term of the contract, people who've been in it have saved money. And I think if you go to the next slide, we might have one other one. We just brought a couple examples. This is an Eversource community. This is Milton, actually, so nearby. They're served by Eversource, though. They started their program in 2021, and when they launched their program, they were pretty much at the same price as Eversource, but they locked that in for a little over, actually basically 4 years, and the world kind of went crazy, and energy prices went way up, but they just had that fixed price. So that's a couple examples, but oh yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, these are pretty representative, I think, of what a lot of communities' experiences have been. Obviously, the last winter was kind of extreme in terms of the savings. It's usually not that big, but that's the experience.
Thank you. Faye.
Hi. Well, I love this program. I just have a couple questions. One is, if you're not having good customer service in that grid, is anything going to change because you're doing And another question, I want to know if the renewables improve, like for example, there are geothermal systems in Bradenton, for example. If we got that in Quincy, what would happen? Would we take advantage of?
Sure. The first question was, will this program have any effect, good or bad, on customer service with National Grid? I think the question was actually, if you have a problem with National Grid customer service now, is that going to get any worse or going to get any better? I don't think it should be no change at all. So whether you like the service you've gotten from National Grid, which I personally have, but I also know that it's a big company and people have customer service issues. The second part of that question was specific to the green energy projects that will supply the green energy requisitions that we purchase if a new project comes online that's innovative and it's geothermal heating systems, those types of things. Would Quincy have the option to do that? I would say we're in better position to do that now based upon the firm that we're buying our clean energy RECs from, and you know them, it's Green Energy Consumer Alliance is FAA. They've been around for a long time. Larry Cretion, who's a former city councilor in Quincy, was very active in that world. He works for them. So all of these projects, very specifically, are all New England-based clean energy, green energy projects. And I'm sure that if something innovative comes along, that Mass Green Energy Consumers Alliance is going to be on top of it very quickly. So I would say there's probably a good chance of that. Sure. Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of suggestions and one question.
Okay.
One suggestion is a bigger screen, maybe. Because none of these people are older than me, I guess. But second is, maybe on the website you can have a place where people can ask questions and then bring those questions to this forum.
Sure.
So you can filter them and, kind of maybe make it concise. And maybe put it up as an FAQ in the website as well, so people can just browse through them and have the answers and questions.
Sure.
And the question I have is, if I care a lot about the supply that I'm getting, that it's renewable, how do I even know? I mean, we all have the one power line. If my neighbor is not on this program, how do I even know that I'm getting the renewable energy to my house?
It's a great question. The question is, there were two suggestions, both of them good. With the exception of the screen, I don't have a problem with that screen. The question was, how do you know if you're getting the renewable? If you opt in to the premium package with 100% renewable energy, how do you know that you're getting that 100% renewable energy at your house?
Yeah, and thank you for the suggestions. We do have a contact form on the website, and we've got an initial FAQ. So yeah, based on these discussions, we'll go back and take a look and add to that. Oh, great. On the resources page, yep, there's an FAQ.
Notification letters out there in all translated languages, English, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Portuguese.
Yeah, so we've got the translated letters on the resources page, FAQ, 2 sample bills. There's a couple customers in Quincy who have Eversource. And we also have the plan that got approved by DPU and some summary information about the product. So the resources page is good. And then on the far right, there's a contact page, so you can ask us questions. There's also a phone number, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So thank you, great suggestion. Just to the renewable question, that's a good one, right? We get that a lot. It's one set of wires. And the way you can kind of think about it too is it's sort of like a big pool, right? There's once the water goes in, you can't choose which little bit of water you get. So that's sort of been a problem since we had the electricity grid, because we're all on this one big grid. So the way that this is dealt with is whenever power is generated and put onto our grid, whether it's from natural gas or solar, there's a central grid operator. They create a certificate, and they give that certificate to the generator. So it says you have put on, 1 unit of natural gas or 1 unit of solar. And then on the consumption side, if anyone wants to claim that they have used renewable energy, they need to buy and what's called retire so no one else can use it. They need to buy enough certificates to match the number of units of energy that you used. And so effectively what we're going to make sure happens is the supplier, if you're in the, say you're in the premium product, the supplier is going to look at your usage over the course of a year. If you use, 6,000 kilowatt hours, they're going to make sure that they buy enough certificates to represent 6,000 kilowatt hours from the qualifying renewable sources, so wind, solar, all in New England. And then we, as the consultant, are going to do our due diligence with them to make sure that they, in fact, did that. So that's basically the process. So you can feel good about knowing that if you are in the standard or the premium, that money you are paying, real renewable energy is being generated in New England and put onto the electricity grid, effectively in your name.
Helen? The question was, are we buying as a larger group, or is the city of Quincy buying as a group on its own? We are buying as a group on our own. We're big enough. Yes.
Just back on the benefit, so you said that all the benefits we see from listening groups, how about the reasonable stage
I'm sorry. Try again.
So all the benefits you receive from the national group, like the low income?
Oh, yep.
So how about the reasonable stage?
That all continues. It all continues. Anything, the question was about the current incentives, programs that National Grid has, and do those continue under if you opt into this, if you stay opt into this program? Yes, they do. Yes, correct. In the back.
If you choose to opt out and mail in the little card that was sent out, how do you get confirmation that you have been opting out?
Great question. The question is, if you do decide to opt out and use standard mail, the form that you got, the card, how do you know? Do you get confirmation that you've been opted, that you have opted out?
There isn't an automatic confirmation process for that, but I think if you would like that, you could get in touch with us if we have that number up. We can check on when the supplier has gotten that, but and generally we've rolled out these programs to the number of cities and towns. That mail is really good, but yeah, question. That is also true. What you would do is, so this program starts in June, and then so June's going to go by, and you're going to get a bill in early July for June. And on that bill, it would, if you've opted out successfully, it will still say National Grid. So that would be sort of also the confirmation you would check. But no, the suppliers take the opt-out really seriously because they recognize this is a unique opportunity they've been given, right? This whole opt-out process. So they take the opt-out processing those really seriously, as well as they know that the Department of Public Utilities takes this really seriously, as do we. So,
great question. Yes, sir.
I'm very concerned about opting out, and I think what they need is reassurance now, because you call different companies and they keep on hold, this, that, the other things. Can the city tell the people here or later on the process that if you have a problem opting out or whatever, or you're on the phone for an hour or whatever, can you call the legal department, the mayor's office, somebody in the city?
Sure, that's a great point. The question is, if you do have a problem opting out, if you call the phone number from the supplier and you're on the phone forever, it ends up being one of those things. Can the city step in and provide some assistance? The answer is yes. If we have not done so already, we'll make sure the mayor's office phone number is on there. If there are issues, the consultant team, who's been terrific, will make sure their contact is in there. And if you have a problem with the actual supplier, then yes, then we can absolutely get involved. We can do something like that, absolutely. Counselor, you've been waiting patiently, I apologize.
With everybody leaving one by one, I was wondering, is this like musical chairs and the last person seated just prize?
Oh, they just turned the light, they turned the rest of the lights out on us, so. Oh. I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
New residents to Quincy that get electricity.
So if I get here in June, after the voluntary opt-out period, you're enrolled, but you'll be able to, that's actually a really good question. The question is, if you're here in June and July, what happens if you're a new resident? Is your first bill come with some sort of notification or process that tells you that you're in this program and that you need to opt out?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what we'll do for anyone who new, we'll get that list of accounts from National Grid on a periodic basis and do the same thing we're doing now. So they'll get a similar letter. It'll say, hey, we'll give them the 30 days to consider and to opt out or not. And so they'll be, they will get that automatic notification enrollment. People can always opt in sooner if they want. If they've moved in and they know about the program, they can just go online to the website and sign up. We thought about adding a gauntlet of fire to the enrollment process, but we have scrapped that idea.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I know there's people around that have thrown out the letters, thrown out the postcards, thrown everything out. When we automatically get enrolled in that program, what do they have? Basic, premium, or
Standard.
Standard.
Everybody gets, if you throw out the letter and, look, we understand, that's a really good question. The question was about the communication process that, even though we've tried really, really hard with the engagement, the letters, in the press, on cable, on the internet, on the city's social media to get the word out, there are people, and that's fine, they're just not interested in dealing with the city. And they get something from the city and it goes, unless it's a bill, it goes away. And we get that, but what we're going to do is continue the communication process. And that communication process will always be open to people. So if you're one of those people that throws out the bill, but 4 months from now, you notice it on your bill, who threw out the letter, but then you notice something on your bill, this website, everything that we're doing is gonna be there. So people should be able to pretty quickly find the information, because it never goes away once it exists. Yes, sir.
I don't understand one thing. We have one meter in the house. We have one pipe of water coming in, so. How can you tell how much of that water, as opposed to electricity, is from the city and from?
So the question is, and this goes back to a little bit of the question earlier about, right. So you're all getting, and Patrick can follow this up, you're all getting the same, so the question is, how do you know if there's one meter and there's one line coming into your house, how do you know who's providing? Is it National Grid? Is it our supply program? Or is it some other thing? How do you, or the renewable energy, how do you know that that's coming into the house when you have one line coming into the house? I think that's the basis of the question, right? So it's a bigger economic question that I'm gonna.
Yeah, sure. I think the very simple answer is that there's the two parts of the bill. When National Grid calculates their delivery portion, and when the city's supplier calculates their supply portion, they're both using the same number that they get from the meter, which is how many kilowatt hours did you use in the last month. So they're both using that same number. So that's why they can read the same meter. We get that number from the meter, and then National Grid uses that number to calculate your delivery portion of your bill, and then they use that number then the city's supplier uses that number to calculate the supply portion of your bill. So Yeah, I think that's the short answer. And I guess we already kind of talked about how we track renewable energy, which is sort of separate. But yep, we just have 1 meter. The one number that comes off of it is how much energy you used, and that is what both parties use to calculate your bill.
Is that, okay. Let me try. Correct. It's all the same. It's all the same electricity. It's all the same electricity. It's the economics of how it's getting into. It's not the actual process of it getting into your house. That's not going to change. The wire's there. The meter's there. Your electric. The wires aren't changing. Nobody. Right. But two sources very far away in the world of economics and not having anything to do with the wire that goes directly to your house.
If basically something happened, and the source of the city, there's a bridge cut off, there would be no change. Assuming the both sources line up, there'd be no change in what would be coming into my house over the line.
All right. Patrick's gonna take another stab at this.
Yeah, I'm going to take one more stab at this. So, all right. No, this is good. This is good. So we have different prices, and the prices differ based on how much renewable electricity is on there. But as you've correctly pointed out, we only have one set of wires coming to our house. So how could your choice mean something different, right? Because it's just one set of wires. So really the way to think...
If you're in a bar room, there's a tap, and there's 3 flavors. That's the flavor there. Here, this is that is what's happening. It's called for my meter. I don't know what's going on.
Exactly. So, right. So your choice of the three choices doesn't change what physically comes out of the tap or what comes into your house. What it changes is if we step back a little bit, zoom out to like New England. Think about our New England electricity grid. It's one grid. What your choice changes is what power gets put onto the electricity grid. So if you're in the 100% option, your choice means that more renewable energy will be put onto our New England electricity grid than it would if you were just in the basic option. So while it won't change what comes to you at the end of the grid, because we physically can't do that, it will change what is put onto the New England electricity grid.
Almost. Oh yeah, I can see caution for sure. Just at the end of the night, the bartender, the bar wants to know how much came from here, how much came from here. But if they're coming at different prices, when it comes out the tap, it's going to be a different price too.
Sure. Let me take that analogy. I'm going to try to take that analogy one step further. Imagine the bar room, but the keg it's one keg, and the keg is in eastern New York somewhere. You decide that you want, it's one keg for every flavor of beer. Let's just say, hypothetically, all right? And I could be totally screwing this up here, but I'm trying to, so one keg, all the beers. The keg is in Canada or Western New York or someplace in New England. It's not near your local bar. The time it gets to the pipe at your local bar, that's where it splits up, and you picked, I want the cheap one, I want the green one, I want the expensive one. So the tap, you got one tap for the green, you got one tap for this, you got one tap for that. So all the beer goes into one place. There's the good expensive stuff, there's the green environmentally friendly stuff. It all goes into one keg, even though that doesn't make, I get that doesn't make sense, but just imagine for the sake of, for this analogy, that keg draws off, whether it's Budweiser, Sam Adams, or Pabst Blue Ribbon, they all come through the same pipe. But you are still, yes, but you still get to pay for the one you want. All right, we got a better analogy. Okay.
I'm gonna make pie, right? And I have 2 choices for my pie. I've got 5 choices for my pie.
I can make it all out of McIntosh and it'll be all kind of gushy. And everybody gets to eat the pie because I'm making it for everybody. Or I can get some really good apples in there, and if I only put a few good apples in there, well, it's still kind of mushy, but everybody's eating the pie. So we're all contributing, like I do net metering. I'm putting solar out there. I am contributing to, you're getting some of my solar in your house. So what you're really asking is, are you going to pay for everybody to get a better pie? Because we're all going to get a better pie if you pay that. But I might not pay that extra because I'm already putting the good stuff out on the water.
Gotcha. Are we getting there? We can continue this. We'll come up with analogies. We will get there. All right, folks, it's 7:30, an hour and a half. Great job. Always follow-up questions if anybody has them. Thank you very much for coming.